into this. I just thought I'd let you know in case there's anything that you want to do within that 30 seconds. Because then I'm going to start talking. Okay. If I can get your attention. Some of you know who I am, some of you don't. I'm going to try to fill both of those particular things out as we go along. I think the most important thing for you to understand is that I'm going to try to avoid presenting anything to you as a professor of theater, which I have been for the last 30 years. It has been the foundation. Is that in the ladies' room? Yeah.
You said 30 seconds.
Better than just talk.
Sounds like they're having a good time. Oh, all right. We got one day. We got one day. But I am Von Washington. And what I have done here at this particular activity for the last few years is to present theater. Now, sometimes that theater is produced in a way that I produce theater. I produce a lot of theater that is storytelling theater. And so I consider myself to be a storyteller. It is this idea and this fashion of being a storyteller that I created, as far as I know, based on the African storytelling tradition. Some of you may not know or be familiar with the African storytelling tradition, so I've got a few notes that I'll read to you in a minute that will tell you something about that tradition. Some of you may not know how we in the theater world, in the United States of America, in Europe, and in other countries, put together theater pieces. I have notes about that to bring you up to date on. I'm using those particular things in hopes that you can understand where I'm coming from. And I ask that you will think about and be free with what you don't know to ask questions at the end of this brief dialogue. I have been asked to present a theatrical presentation here. I believe they want me to do this presentation next season, but there is another presentation that I have that has also caught their eye. So I'm not sure which one will come first, or if the other presentation will be in this spot. I'm not sure. We will have to find out. But this presentation is, for me, entitled Flotilla To Freedom. And it is based on a very, very good book. Carrie Elkidge's book. Last year, Vita Tucker introduced me to this particular book, and I got a copy of it. And it just blew my mind, because I already knew members of the Sanders family that live in Michigan. And when I found out about that, I contacted them, and they gave me more information about their family that corroborated this particular book. Now, this is a very, very interesting book. And if you are interested in genealogy and historical studies, you need to get it just to have it in your place, in case you got family with children or anything that may be interested in this kind of thing. Because this particular person, who happens to be sitting right here, okay, did a fantastic job with this book for people like me who are writers. I happen to write theater. I happen to perform in theater. I happen to teach it, and I sort of believe in it. And so I'm going to try to give you some idea about what they asked me to do, how I'm putting this particular piece together. Everything that I do today is to try to do that. So remember that I'm giving you what I think you might want to know, and you've got to ask those questions to help me get to cover what you want to know about this particular process. I don't like reading unless I'm reading to speak. The spoken word is my game. Not, even though I've been a writer for many years, the written word. I like to bring the written word to life. And that is what I want to do with this book. In this book, 50 human beings. I said human beings, not slaves, human beings. Got on 3 rafts in one state, took the Ohio River to Cincinnati, got on a train, many for the first time, came up to Indiana, took carriages to Michigan to come to live in this area. As a matter of fact, folk, if you want to talk to them, you can, because that's what I do. I go to graveyards and I talk to the people that's in them to get the information about their lives. But Carrie helped me. She gave me some information that I can use. But I am a vocal man. I want to hear them talk. And this trip that they took from Cabell County, Virginia, into the Ohio. Have you ever seen the Ohio River? I took the trip. I got on my car, which is different, but I had already been on a raft. I knew how to get on a raft. I knew how to make a raft because I did it as a kid. So I thought, man, that would be interesting. That raft did not go on the Ohio River, though. That's a big river. It is huge. I got
In flood.
tested. What's that again?
In flood.
In flood.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what that means. In flood. That's when a lot of water is there. A lot of water. Well, I'm going to read a little bit and give you an idea of how I take the written word and change it to the spoken word. A lot of playwrights all over the world have done this process. I've been fortunate, folks. I admit it. I've had my plays produced in other countries, and I've done the characters from other countries. I'm proud of the fact that I've done some of Shakespeare's most popular men, Macbeth, Othello. I'm thinking of another one, but I'm getting old. Slid off right there. Okay. So turning written words into spoken words is my gig. Huh?
I just shut it off.
Did you? Okay. I'm supposed to announce that first. Cut off those things. Or turn them on to vibrate. But if they vibrate and we see you smiling, we don't know what's going on. Okay? So be very careful. So I'm going to start out by thanking Carrie. I want to thank the Underground Railroad Association here for giving me this opportunity. It's the first time I've ever tried to explain to anybody how I write these particular pieces. I'll give you information on how the Africans did it, why the Africans did it also, okay? And how I turned it into an American format. I'm not the only one who uses it. I saw the British company come over to America and use it, okay? And I might add to you too that if you care to have information on me, who I am and what I do, I've got some flyers up here on the table that you may have, okay? And I just want to let you know I checked the the library, even though I've been to the library and I've produced over there before. I guess they sold out all my books. So these are two of the books that I have. All of them are based in a dialogue fashion, the African American way. And all you got to do is put my name on the internet, Amazon.com, and they'll come up if you care to purchase them. But this baby, this is what happens to a book that's written when I get my hands on it. Especially the places that I want to see and the things that I want to talk about. It just, all those things go in there. So I'm going to be resorting to your book here in a little bit also as I go through this. So let me give you a few notes just to familiarize yourself with me. If you have a question, just get your hand up. I'll stop right in the middle of what I'm doing and try to answer that, okay? I was supposed to say when we started, good afternoon. Before I tell you my secrets, I would like to read to you two statements that guide me through life. Now, I did indicate I will double up on that. Through life, not just my writing. Because I think you've got to understand something before you put it down. So I try to get an understand before I put it down. I had to get an understanding of what Carrie was writing, the research that she did, before I tried to turn it into voice. But turning it into voice is what I want to do. Let me just slide this to you. Those 50 people, 51 maybe, okay, who took that trip from Cabell County, Virginia, down the Ohio River to Cincinnati, Ohio, up to Elkhart, Indiana, into Michigan, and right into this area. Nobody ever spoke a word. Can you imagine? 50 people on a boat or 3 rafts and a train they've never been on or never saying anything? I can't. Not my people particularly. I'm talking about my people. We talk. You know, I had to do some research here in order to give some voice to these people. The particular moment, and I think you might understand this, is all of them had been enslaved for their life when they got on those rafts. And they took that trip. And one day, they stepped on free ground. Somebody had to say something. I can't even get through it without being emotional. Somebody had to say hallelujah.
Yes.
Yeah. Probably a little bit of damn. All right, it's time. If you know anything about slavery, that's forced servitude. You don't make decisions on your own. I'm talking about human beings, folks, not slaves. That's a title they put on them. That's the place they wanted them to be. Human beings like you and me. I got Solomon's book, Top Man, 80-some years old. Slave, called him. Human being. Can you imagine being in slavery for as long as he was? At that age? We don't live that long nowadays, and they say we live longer than ever. This must have been a bad you-know-what. This cat. I couldn't wait to meet him. I met him when I went to his grave. Strange thing about me. I talk to the dead. Mama taught me. Daddy taught me how to talk to them. See, if you get the information about them, they'll talk to you. But if you're dumb, they'll leave you alone. So get the information. You know the worst thing that happened to me in the United States of America? I went to school And they never told me anything about my people,
Preach.
my ancestral background. Yes, they dummified me, and they dummified a whole bunch of other people in the room. Don't remember that, dummying. But that's what happened to you. They made you think that these weren't people, so they could get you to treat them the way you treated them. You got to deal with that. I have to deal with what I got to deal with. You got to deal with what you got to deal with. So when I put them on the boat, they're going to talk. They're going to tell you how they feel. They're going to let you know what they do, what they did. Yes, Samson Sanders did a wonderful thing with Solomon Sanders' people. They call that a family, by the way. And he had, they say, 2 families. Well, how long do we have to stay around before we know what 2 families mean? He got one legal one and one that's sort of his. He does with it what he wants to. But he creates human beings. We have to face certain things. As I read them, I would like for you to keep in mind, from my perspective, something magical happens when the written words become the spoken words. Oh, it happens in your house every night. You walk in and you say to somebody that's living with you, "How you doing today?" And they hear it. Now, you might have been in a happy mood, and they say, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
What's up with that? You know, I wasn't where you thought I was when I said that. How many times have you told a loved one, "I love you"? Yeah, shoot. You know, I said, well, what's wrong with you? If you don't get it right, it's going to come out wrong if they aren't on the same plane. And sometimes that's what we're doing with conversation all the time. So as a writer, I got to get that conversation right. As an actor, I got to put it in the right frame. And then I got to produce it to the other person. And then they take it and do with it what they need to take it so that you can follow where it's going. Well, that's my job. Sometimes I'm the actor. Sometimes I'm the director. Sometimes I'm the writer. That's what I want to do with her story. It's their story. She wrote it. She gave us the information. What I had to do to get to a place to understand it is, first of all, I had to go back and research, how do you do what they were doing at that time? They weren't being treated like all slaves, all human beings that came from that African situation. They were given certain things, but they certainly weren't given their freedom. They still longed for their freedom. You know what freedom is about? If you want to go to the AMP, you can go to the AMP. If you're not free, you can't go to the AMP when you want to go. You got to go if they let you go. And in this case, we're not going to let you go because we don't know, we don't want you to know what's going on at the AMP. They want to deny you this freedom. We don't want your children to know. We don't want your children's children to know. When I met the Sanders family, I know this was aimed at them in the past. But they got lucky. This man decided, no, I don't want to do it. Under a certain umbrella called the Quakers. I don't want to do it that way. For some reason, he decided. And he called them his family. Somebody was calling them that. I got that impression it was. And then I go get my book, my Africa book, because you know that's where they told us that the slaves came from. Well, in the years that passed, all of a sudden the color of the slaves just changed. Oh, the slaves must have been dancing with each other all the time. No, we know better than that. Somebody was there dealing with those slaves. trying to make them inhuman people. I know because when I look at the picture of my daddy, I know my daddy was not from Africa. Louis Gates erased all doubt of it when he told us, we can't use your father's DNA. It takes us back to Scotland. I said, wait, ho. So now we gotta have your mothers. And they got my mothers, and it took us to Senegal. Cut off. Anyway, no matter what, they classified you. They kept you in that place that they wanted you to use you. So now all I'm doing is telling you how I'm gonna feel when I get on the boat and we're going up to Michigan. I want to tell you how I'm feeling. I was really impressed with this particular book because I saw some of the pictures that were drawn and the people were happy. People will try to make you believe that the slaves, as we know it, were happy people. Got to get the other book. Got to find out what really went on. You got to follow this Underground Railroad. You're going to find out when you follow that railroad, it goes to places that you never really wanted to see. There's another story in that book that I like. Not because it ends up with people killing people, because it gives me an opportunity to examine the whys of it. We got those problems right here in our country right now because of these attitudes that have been developed. All I want to do with my piece is get the real story out. The real story out. I want to see, her name is Zebedee or
Zebediah.
Zebediah, okay. And Zebediah, that's the male, and Ada. I want you to hear them when they set their feet on free ground. When they take them down there and say, this is your land, your 40 acres. I want you to watch them to see how they feel. That's what I get to do in the theater. And then they can go to work for themselves. Then the way, and I think you described how you use the hoe in the field, and the hoe is a stick, and the men, and what they have to do, and what it takes to go down those rivers with those particular things, and how that river flows and those drops. I went up to northern Michigan, northern part of the country, on the Erie Canal, to see what the Erie Canal was like, and then how those people worked on that Erie Canal. And nobody had told me before that day that thousands of slaves, as we called them, human beings, my ancestral people, worked to get that thing going. I also found out when they did some little research for me that my great-grandmother, my grandmother was Native American. They hadn't told me that either. I had to follow those people up to find out something about them. So I found out I was a blend of human beings. That's that DNA that they talk about, that we got. So that I don't end up hating everybody and they're up into my body. So when I look at my daddy, I can care about my daddy. Because my daddy, if he had wanted to, could have went through this world as a different man. Just because of the way he looked, not because of what was in him. My daddy fought in the Navy or worked in the Navy. My great-grandfather was in the Civil War. They hadn't even taught me that. I almost did some tracing all the way back to the American Revolution. I didn't find my family, but I found the Africans that were working to get freedom in this country. And when freedom came for the others, they closed it off to them. so that everybody else could use them to develop the country. You know, one of the moments that really, really helped me was when I found out that in Jamestown, the place that they teach all of our children is the beginning place for America, that they were dying, all of them were dying, except for the Africans that were in this country. And that's the turnaround point, folks. They said we got to get those who can live so we can live. So they got them. And instead of saying we're going to make you equal with this, we're going to close you down and let us live and tell your children and our children that something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you. And they found out that if they keep you from learning, you won't know where you're going. Nobody will. You got to find out. You got to get the information. So that's all I'm going to do. When I get them on the rafts, is going to let them talk. Let them talk. Some of them were there for the first time. Carrie told me they had not been on a raft. They hadn't been 10 miles away from where they lived. They had never been on a train. Trains still fascinate me. I love to hear the train coming, particularly at night. They go, ooh, ooh. Yeah, you know? Oh, me too. Especially when I'm with my wife. That train comes and there's some rain on the house. You know how things happen. I know you do. Yeah. I got a couple of things here to give you. Don't want to get too academic with it, but there are two big belief systems that shape the world that we live in that I try to abide by when I am making accounts that I have been asked to make. One of them is this, and it's from a Nigerian scholar, Babatunde Lawal. Babatunde says, because of the dynamic and expressive nature of the spoken word, many African cultures ignored the art of writing. Myths, folk tales, and history were transmitted orally from one generation to the next by guilds of professional historians and poets. These professionals are known as griots, or as the Africans call them, jellies. Nigerian scholar Babatunde Lawal. The first thing they did when they got the Africans, they brought them to this country and made sure they didn't get a chance to talk. And if you couldn't talk, you couldn't tell your kids. They took the children from them. They set up systems to recreate them so that they could put all of them in the fields to work and work and work and work and work until they died. So all I'm saying about that is, how you gonna feel when you put your feet on that free ground? I know how you're gonna feel. You're gonna feel like I did. I can just think of it and know it. I can have a house now. I can have a tree now. I can grow a garden now. My mama took me in the garden all the time. My mama taught me how they lived a long time ago. Wasn't no AMP, no, in Michigan, no Myers, okay? It was my mother that let me know I could find out by talking to the dead if I learned to talk to them. For some reason, in the backyard, when I was a kid, I talked all the time to I don't know what I would call them, my friends. In my day, it was cowboys and Indians. Always out in the backyard, cowboys and Indians. Some reason I wanted to be with the Indians. I didn't learn until later why I wanted to be with the Indians. But I'm dealing with my own DNA at that time. Quietly, it stays there for you. It works on you. I wanted to beat them cowboys. Later on, I found out, we learned about the cowboys, and all the cowboy shows don't have no black people in them. But the real records, the records that Carrie can come up with, shows, there's almost 2 for every 3. 2 for every 3. They there. I remember hearing Carrie talk down in Ohio a little while back. And she told them, in Ohio, or was that still in Michigan? The last.
I don't.
Okay, you remember.
I haven't seen your movie.
Right, okay, right, okay. But she told them, if you are living in this area, you got some Native American in you. Because that's what they carried across the country to help make the country possible for the rest of us to come. And if you think them men were just dealing with men, I'm sorry. Half of you probably got Native American blood all up in you. And then you don't want to tell nobody nothing. You want to forget about that, or they're not going to tell you. So this is what happens when a guy like me gets that information, and I can put it closer to the people that are there because they knew it. They knew what was going on. They were living it. Still looking for the Native American history in this country. Statement number 2. This is the crucial one. Philosophers, spiritual leaders, and educators around the world strongly believe that knowledge of human history is important to a quality education and an understanding of other cultures. It must be borne in mind that the first lessons in the humanities is to make a people aware of their contributions to civilization. And the second lesson is to teach them about other civilizations. So when you take away teaching me about mine, which is the first lesson, basically, in civilization, you make me an invisible man. And it stayed that way for me as a child until I was grown with children. That's when I started studying. That's when I started looking. It's important. These are big rules that control how we live in the world. And it's my job when I create these situations to make sure those ideas are covered and make them look normal and natural. There are a few things that I'd like you to know about me. In this particular segment, now I'm telling you about what she gave me, and I'm telling you how I'm using, what thinking I'm using as I weave it together. So I go back to me and how I was created and what happened to me. I think you should know that I am a teacher, a writer, an actor, a stage director, and in all cases I like concentrating on the dialogue that is spoken, created by the human beings in the story. And because of that, I consider myself to be a dialogue man. I like to deal with what the characters have to say. For instance, we talked about it this morning. There's a moment on the rafts when one of the children pull a plug out of the beehives that they got along, okay? Now, all of us know how important bees are to the world we live in. You know, if you don't, you got to go back to school for a minute or get on the web. You know, they got all of it. They let them tell you. That's why we got so worried a couple years back when the bees started disappearing. They got to pollinate that stuff. They got to make it, you know, even if we do have Myers can't get it if it's not there to get. So we've got to remember these things. So I wanted to take this particular moment and have the audience there when the boy takes the plug. I say boy, didn't I? Just like him, okay? Takes the plug out of the beehive. And the bees are now swarming in the air. They don't tell you the bees take off and go away a long way away, do they? Now the bees gonna stay right there. They're gonna get you. Now you tell me I got 50 people on these 3 rafts and we know it and ain't nobody saying nothing? That's an easy one to write. Ah, ooh, ah, yeah, get up, ah. Yeah, that's gonna be easy. Now you're gonna see it.
Wait till I get a hold of you.
Right, right. But the audience is gonna have fun with it because once they see the boy, that's my job now, to let them see him reach down They're talking already. Oh my goodness, don't do, oh, leave that thing alone. You can hear them, you know what audiences do. And then, boom, okay, bzzz, that's the sound man. I gotta make sure you got that there, okay? Because we can't let real bees out. But the imagination can take over. This makes the trip an interesting human trip. I don't know how many of you, I'm not gonna take any surveys. Thank you very much. Okay, but everybody knows what goes on between men and women. Okay. There's a moment that I found out about the family that we're talking about, the Sanders family, and one of the most important men on the trip, and his name is Solomon. Now, Solomon's Bible I have seen, and I'm trying to figure out how these people talk, how they sound. Seeing your family the other day, and all of you just told me the nature of you, how you smile, what your eyes are like, everything was just so helpful for me. Because you're not going to be anything other than what you are. They delivered to you what they were. And here I got them now. And I know your brother already, okay? And now I've met several others yesterday. But Solomon, the one that is on the boat, on the rafts coming up, he's a Christian man. Now, you got to understand that on this plantation, or whatever that working situation was, they were not disallowed to learn. Now, I don't know how many of you know it, but it's hard not to teach people to learn to read and write. They're going to learn to read and write. The Africans that were there learned to read and write. But I can play dumb for you, so you can keep your idea that I don't know. But they know. They know you. They know you better than you know yourself, because they're feeding you. They're keeping the fire going. They're taking care of the horses. They know all of these things. But this particular owner allowed them also to go to the store and see the Myers. So now they're going to have more information. They're going to know how much it costs. They're going to have all of that information. So you got people on this particular flotilla. This is not a flotilla of people that have been kept from knowing what's going on. That's the flotilla that I am dealing with, and little fellas like that, okay? I can't wait to let them go on that boat, okay? You know what they're going to do. And all I got to do is make sure I can get somebody's mama to let me borrow that kid for the day I'm going to do the show. All right. But Solomon, he was my kind of guy. When I saw Solomon's Bible, and it's his actual Bible, I had to take the Bible and read what Solomon was reading. And they say Solomon was a ladies' man. He liked poetry. I mean, he can read. I don't know if you've ever stopped to read the Song of Solomon in the Bible. Woo! Let me tell you. It is. I'm just going to give you a little bit now. So you can know what happens when the written word becomes the spoken word. Yeah. Let him kiss me, she said, with the kisses of his mouth. Oh, the children. Anybody got? No, everybody here is okay. Oh, he's looking really close. He's listening really close. So be careful with him when you get him home. Okay? Kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Get some wine on the spot. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Oh, Solomon was studying. He liked that Bible. So now I know I'm going to have a Solomon moment on the trip. I'm going to put him behind, let's say, maybe a couple of bags of hay, where he's just got his Bible and him, but somebody is down at the end of and he's spotting him, and she already knows what he does, okay? I got it made, and all I got to do is tell him. The narrator can tell him, so y'all will know what's going on. He might use "Take Me Away with You." Oh, I got it. I can't do that one. But that's another aspect of it. Those are the things that I'm trying to do with it. I want to talk about the trip. I want to put the people on the trip. I'll have to get actors that are maybe each one of them can play 3 to 4 characters. I will have to blend them. It will be where I have whites and blacks because whites and blacks are on them. I have a show right now that I'm touring that does the same thing. It works like gangbusters because that's the way we have been in life. We have been hooked to each other since this time. And our historians have told us pretty soon it will all be blended. We won't be able to tell who's what. And it's happening. We see it all the time. So we might as well try to keep from killing each other. And we haven't been successful at that yet. So we still got work to do. So those are the things that I'm trying to do. I had examples of other moments in life that are so deep in the language when you get characters and actors to say things and when you write them. I'll just give you one or two of them right here, and then I'm going to open up for any questions that you might have. And I'm going to use at least 2 of the most favorite playwrights in the country, in the world, really. The one that I really, really like is Shakespeare's speech by Jacques in Just As You Like It, when he does his poem on 7 ages of man. This is only the first verse of it. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. And then he takes you through 10 each, the decades, okay? Gives you 70 years, and then he says you're back to knowing nothing. Those of you who are close to working with me or walking with me at this particular time, you know what that means, okay? You're trying to figure it out, all right? Ossie Davis is Pearly Victorious. He uses for one of his characters at a time, this is the 60s, the revolutionary 60s in America. And he says, tonight, my friends, I find in being black a thing of beauty, a joy, a strength, a secret cup of gladness. A native land in neither time nor place, a native land in every Negro face. This is a man that's growing and reaching a point where he understands who he is and what the world is. These statements are statements that guide us in life if we understand them. And we will try to make sure that we get statements as deep when we are on this particular raft going down to freedom, which I think is important. Lastly, Shakespeare's Macbeth. Now, if you are a Shakespeare person, you know that you don't go hear a Shakespeare play without knowing somebody's going to get killed. Yeah. I'm sorry, that's it. Somebody's going to get busted. Is this a dagger that I see before me? The handle toward my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal, vision, sensible, to feeling as to sight? This is a man questioning himself before he's getting ready to go and kill his leader. All because one of Solomon's women got him to do it. Now I mixed that last line. Now don't watch out. I'm messing with you. I'm not saying that's in the Bible, okay? I'm just messing with you a little bit. That's some idea, I hope, of what I'm going to do and what I'm trying to do with this particular production. It will be staged as an African production of storytellers. 6, maybe, players come out, me being one of them. I always reserve that first one for me, okay? 5 others. I probably need 2 men, no, 3 men and 2 women for this one, as I count it now, playing several roles in those particular minutes. I need some that can play younger people and some that can play older people. That's the way that goes when you put the piece together. And then you work it so that you do it in 5 different steps. The first one is the exposition. That's when I tell you what I'm going to tell you, what this play is going to be about. And then I show you some complications. No, the expectations first. We're going to Cass County. We're going to make it happen, okay? That's the expectation. But there's got to be some problems on the way. So we have some complications. That beehive. Some people not going to get along together. You know that's going to go. That's going to happen, okay? Some problem in the towns on the way. What happens? Because she told us there are slave hunters. I've already done one piece about the slave hunters, okay? So I got plenty to go on there, okay? And then we get the climax before that last breath of putting our feet in Cass County. And we have as evidence their bodies in the graveyard. If you have any questions now, please ask. Wasn't too bad.
Can I ask you to do one more thing?
Yes.
Have an exit cavalcade where everybody black and white is crying because they're leaving.
Absolutely. That's in there. That's going to be in there that day. Yeah, because here's it. I think that's this day here. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Could you
Absolutely.
repeat the question?
She wanted to make sure that in it we have the exit of Cabell County. And she is absolutely correct. It will be there.
Because
Yeah.
among the research, the cousins were all there to see him go, black, white.
Yeah,
The whole
that's right.
community's on, and everybody's crying and squalling because they don't want to leave, they don't want to go. And he left a lot of relatives, you know they did this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where it's joyous and yet still, and they got to face the fact they're leaving one of the best situations that they had. This man was not treating them the way the rest of the world was treating them. But they had a chance to do it on their own. A lot was not known about it, by the way. She makes it clear. I don't know if you've been through these woods out here and see those bramble bushes and the trees and everything that they got to cut down to have land. And they didn't get here and was offered the best of everything. So there was a lot of work to be done. Ben Wilson, a friend of mine, Dr. Ben Wilson, does deep research on this area. I am consulting his research on those families that lived here after this moment. My point for this one is up to this moment. If it looks like it's going to be good, then we do another one for after the moment, because it's interesting business that goes on. But yes, definitely, every intention to have that time when we leave in it and when we get to the next step.
It ties it together.
Yeah.
We left home, now we're going home.
Yeah, really. And this is the area, folks. The DNA of these folks are in this area. I got DNA sitting right up here in the front row. I'm so glad you stayed. Both of you. So it's really, really important. And other people that are connected to these people. All of our lives have been entwined in some way or another. Any other observations? It's a little warm in here. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you coming. And I want to let you know that the next individual that will be speaking to you is there in the back seat. So, you know, yes, right. So we hope you stay around and give a listen to what he got to say. Thank you very much.